Hello guys, welcome back to Coding Cafe. My name is Mohammed Ali, and in this video tutorial we are going to allow a user to sign up using Firebase authentication, and once the authentication is done, then we will store the user information, which include the name, email and phone inside the Firebase real-time database. So yeah, for that what we need to do is let's just close the other pages. And now on our registration screen.dot file, what we need to do, first of all, we need to add text editing controller from the name, password, email, text field. So what we need to do here, we need to just say text editing controller. First of all, we have name. Let's give it name as text editing controller. It is name text editing controller, and we can initialize it. So you can say text editing controller, just like this. Okay, let's copy paste this three times. The next one that we have is for the email, and then we have phone, and then we have password text editing controller. So let's assign these to our text field. So for the name, we have controller by the name text editing controller, and we have email. So for the email, we have controller by the name email text editing controller. Then for the phone, we have controller by the name phone text editing controller, and then password, we have controller by the name password text editing controller. So make sure that you assign the required controllers to each specific text field. When the user click on the create account button, what we want to do, of course we want to register the user. Okay, so now we are going to call a function which will be by the name register new user, and we will pass the context to it. Okay, which is here you can see build context. So yeah, that's it. And now let's just implement this function which is by the name register new user. So down here we can say register new user, and then as you know that we are passing context to it, so we have to add that parameter which is build context. So as you know that first of all we will authenticate the user using the Firebase authentication. So let's create an instance of the Firebase auth. So we can say here that is final Firebase auth, give it name as Firebase auth equals to Firebase auth dot instance, just like this. And then inside our function which is register new user, we can say that final Firebase user equals to add round brackets, and then we can say wait, and the function which is register user, it will be of type async, and the return type for this will be void. Okay, so make sure to add Firebase auth dot create user with email and password, and it has two parameters we have to pass to it. One is the email, the other one is the password. Let's break the code in pieces so that we can see it easily. Okay, create user with email and password. So for the email, we have email text editing controller dot text in order to get the text from it, and for the password we have password text editing controller dot text, just like this. Let me just break this so that you can see it more easily. And then here we can say dot user. So now if the user is authenticated, which means if the user is created successfully using the email and password inside the Firebase authentication, then basically it returns this Firebase user. If this is not equals to null, it means that the user has been created successfully. But if this is equals to null, it means the user has not been created. So after this here, by using the if condition, we can check that if the Firebase user not equals to null. If this is not equals to null, it means the user has been created successfully. So if you want, you can add here comments, that is user created And now here we can say save user info to database, Firebase real-time database. Else we can say error occurred, display error message. Before we go ahead and save the user information to the Firebase real-time database, here we have to add some checks. That is to check whether the email password name text field and the password text field, if this are empty or not. I mean, or let's say if the email is provided in a correct form or not. Okay, so we will add some validations to it. So here when we call this function, which is register new user, here we can just simply add if condition, and first we have to check for the name. So we can say name text editing controller dot text dot length. So the name must be at least 4 characters. Okay, so it will be less than 4, and so it basically means 3-character name will be allowed. Okay, if let's say the user write 2 words a name, then it will not be accepted. We will just tell the user that is, hey, the name must be at least 3 characters. Okay, and if you want to make it 4, then you can just increase the name length, I mean just like this. Okay, but 4 is good. So here by using the Flutter, now in order to use the Flutter toast messages, for this you have to add a dependency to our pubspec.yml file. So for that, first of all, you need to just go to your browser and Google for this thing, which is Flutter toast, and you will see this first link, which is pub.dev/packages/flutter toast. Okay, just click on it. You can also see the URL here. Okay, just for the understanding. So now you can click on installing after that, and then you can simply copy this Flutter toast and then come back to your Android Studio, and here we have our pubspec.yml file, and in here we need to add this dependency after Firebase database. Okay, just like this, and then you can simply click on pub-get. Here you can see it. Now let's just go back here, and now here we can say Flutter toast, this one. Okay, Flutter toast dot show toast msg, which means message, and the message will be, we can tell the user that his name must be at least 3 characters, and then make sure to put a semicolon here. Now, since we will be using this Flutter toast many times on our registration page for the other validation also, so let's just cut this, and down here let's create a function. We can give it name as display toast message, and then inside it you can pass the Flutter toast message. Now here we need to pass a parameter which will be message, and we can display that message here. You can make it global. Let's cut this from here, and outside the registration screen you can pass that whole function here. Okay, also let's pass the second parameter to it, which will be the build context. So now if we whenever we need a toast message, let's say on our main screen or on the login screen or any other pages that we will create in the upcoming lectures, and let's say if there we need a toast message, then we will just call this display toast message, and we will pass 2 parameters to it. One is the message and the other one is the build context. So now just like this, for example here, if we say, now we can just simply call display toast message. So the first of all we have to pass the message, that is, hey, name must be at least 3 characters. Okay, and then make sure to place here a semicolon, and this is the second parameter, which is the context. Check the email if it is correct or not. So we can say here that is email text editing controller dot text dot contains. So if the email address do not contains this @ sign, For not, we can add exclamation mark here, okay, which is this sign. Here you can see it. So if the email does not contain this @ sign, it means the email is not appropriate. So we can just call our function, which is display toast message. So the first parameter that we have is the message, and we can just tell the user that is, hey, email address is not valid. The second parameter is the context. Make sure to put a semicolon here. After this, we can check the phone. So we can say phone text string controller dot text dot is empty. If the phone text string controller is empty, we can just tell that is, hey, phone number is mandatory, or you can say mandatory or necessary, okay. And let's add the last validation, which is for the password. So we can say password text string controller dot text. So the password must be at least 6 characters, okay. Make sure to add dot length to it. So we can say password must be at least 6 characters. And then if everything is okay, if these conditions satisfies, then else we will register the user. So simple. So make sure to cut this function and call it from here, okay, just like this. Now the next thing is, now the last thing that is left is to save the user information to the Firebase real-time database. So first of all, what we need to do, we need to check here, that is after this round bracket ending, okay, here we can say dot catch error. If any exception occur, then what we want to do in that case. So make sure to add further one more round bracket, okay, just like this, and then we can give it name as error msg, err msg. Then after this round bracket, make sure to put curly braces, and then in here we can call the display toast message. And first of all, we need to pass the message to it. So if you see here, we have this error message exception. So we can say that, first of all, let's give it here, that is error, then give some space, and after the double quotes, by using the concatenation sign plus, we can call the error, we can display the error message dot to string, just like this, and make sure to put a semicolon here. And the second parameter is obviously the context. And then here we can say that display toast message, the message will be user has not been created, or you can say new user account has not been created, comma, second parameter is the context, and yeah, that's it. And now let's just save the user information to the database if the user has been created successfully. Just create a reference to the Firebase real-time database. So for that, let's just go to the main.file, and outside the class myapp, here the top we can say database reference, and let's give it name as user reference. And then we can say Firebase database dot instance dot reference dot child, and we are going to create a node by the name users for saving all the user informations inside this users node. Okay, whenever a brand new account has been created by any user, we will save the information to this users node. And the reason for you can say defining or initializing the database reference here on the main.file outside the class is, now whenever we need this user reference, okay, we will just call it anywhere, I mean at any page when we need it, okay, I mean just like this. For example, now on the registration page, we can simply say user reference, here you can see it, dot child, and we are going to save each user by using their Firebase user ID. So we can say Firebase user dot uid, make sure to put a semicolon here, and then we can say map, let's give it name as user data map equals to, add curly braces, make sure to put a semicolon, and then in here, first of all, we will add the username, make sure to use the same spellings, okay, just like this, otherwise you will get confused and you will get errors. So make sure to you follow the same spellings that I am using, okay. So anyways, for the name we can say name text editing controller dot text, then make sure to put a comma, and let's just copy paste this for the password and other things. So then we have email, so we can say email text editing controller, and then the last one, which is the phone, so we can say phone text editing controller. We have to save this user data map to the real-time database at this address. So what we need to do, we need to just cut this from here, okay, and then after the map we can paste it. So we can say user map dot child firebase user dot uid dot set and pass the user data map to it, just like this. So once it is done, the next thing is to, if you want, you can display toast message to the user that is, hey, congratulations, your account has been created. And the second parameter is the context. Make sure to put a semicolon here, and then we can navigate the user to the main screen. So you can say navigator dot push name until remove. First parameter is the context, comma, and the root name is main screen dot id screen. Make sure to put a semicolon here at the end. For testing the application, what we need to do is just go back to the main.dot file, and we have to initialize the Firebase app, otherwise you will get error, okay. So inside the main void main, here we can simply say, first we make this as async, just like this, okay, and then in here we can say wait firebase dot initialize app, just like this, okay, firebase dot initialize app, and yeah, that's it. Also we can say widget flutter binding dot ensure initialized. More thing here, which is with the name you can write dot trim, and with the email also write dot trim. Otherwise, when you give some extra space there, then it will show you an error, okay. And here just change this password text editing controller, change the length to 6, okay, less than 6, and the name to 3. And the last important thing is that is here you can see, if you hover over this Firebase user, you can also see it is cut it like this. I mean, you can see this line on it. If you hover your mouse on it, it will say that Firebase user is deprecated and shouldn't be used. Instead of it, now the new class is introduced, I mean in the new versions of Firebase, which is user, which you can see here. I mean, you can read this completely, okay. So what we need to do, we need to just change this Firebase user to user instead, okay, this one here. You can see Firebase or dot. So make sure to import this, I mean add this user, and yeah, now we are good to test the application. So let's just test the app. So let's wait for it. The app is now installing on the iPhone, as well as you can also test the application on the Android emulator. For now, let's just go to the browser and go to the Firebase project, Flutter Uber clone, and let's go to the real-time database so that we can see the data after testing the app. So the app is running now successfully. And now let's just go to the registration page. And now let's just quickly fill this form in order to create a brand new account. So Muhammad Ali, then we have the email. So let me give my email here. And then we have the phone number. So let's say for the testing purposes, this is the phone number, and then the last one, which is the password. order to check the validations, remove this @ from the email and then click on create account. It says email address is not valid. Here you can see it. Now let's just make the email address correct, and now let's check for the other one, that is, let's say for the password. If the password is less than 6 characters, if you click here, password must be at least 6 characters. So here you can see it. It is really nice. Now let's just create our first account. So click on create account. And here you can see, congratulations, your account has been created successfully. If you go to the Firebase real-time database, here you can see the users node has been created. Inside it, we have our first user whose Firebase user ID is JHRDK, I mean this one. And here you can see email name, phone. If you go to the authentication, then here you can see Firebase user UID, which is JHRDKH. So that is really nice and really incredible. And we are logged in successfully to the main application. That is, we are now on the main screen. So that's it for this video, and in the next video lecture we will work on the sign in. That is, we will allow the user to log in using the Firebase authentication. So yeah, see you guys in the next video lecture. Bye for now.